Iowa Moto Guzzi Rally 2019, Elkader, Iowa. We had a great time. 583 miles for the weekend. What a show. South of Rushford, Highway 43, on my way down through the valley in Choice and on down to Mabel. A little bit of fun here. Give the Guzzi and that new rear Continental Go tire a little bit of exercise. Downtown Choice, 15-mile-an-hour corner, 20-mile-an-hour corner, and off we go. Up the hill, a couple of hairpins, get up on top. Stopped in Decorah for gas and some coffee. Some group of V-twins were there. I could have fit right in. I would have been the only Moto Guzzi. Here we are coming down the county road into Elkader, down off the bluffs, down off the ridge. Decided to stop for lunch. 2 mint burgers. I've always wanted to stop, never worked out. Had a great burger, great cheeseburger. Sat down out at the patio. Ron was in line behind me. This isn't Ron, this is one of the local residents. Well, actually, Ron's a local resident as well. Winters in Arizona. But he sat down with a couple of cheeseburgers and we talked motorcycles. We talked about his ST, places he'd been, wondering if I knew various places in Wisconsin, most of which I did. Really nice lunchtime. Nice visit with Ron. Pulled into the city park, got set up. Beautiful park, a lot of shade. Very pleasant, even on the hot summer days that we had for the weekend. Humid and sticky, tough sleeping at night, or at least tough going to sleep. Things were better during the night, but it was still really close. Could have used a little more breeze. 5 or 10 degrees less would have been perfect, but we did all right. I finally got there about 1 o'clock. There were already quite a few people there, many of whom had come down on Thursday already. Set up and registered, I decided to head over to the river. Rode over to Guttenberg, pulled in for gas and some coffee, sat down at the Quick Trip, and pretty soon Jeff, Dave, and Gary showed up. We sat inside where it was cool. We saw a couple of guys come in full riding gear. After the coffee was finished, we went outside to say hello, and they were just getting ready to leave on their Aprilia and their KTM. Turns out, father and son from Australia, New Zealand, working for John Deere in nearby Waterloo, Iowa. Of course, then it was time to go out to the park. I had to have some ice cream. Black cherry sounded just right, and it was. I don't know if you can see it right there on that carton. It says nutritional. Gary led us on a nice clockwise loop out of Gutenberg, Osterdock, back through Elkport, Garber, and finally into Elkader. Back to the rally site. John was there, Dan was there, Brad, Jack, and Chris were there. Do some more tire kicking, meet more people, later arrivals. Stopped up by the pavilion. Everybody in line for the Friday roast beef meal. Johnson's catered it again, and it was great. Saturday morning, from my tent, hazy, lots of dew, sticky. At least it was cooler. Saturday morning breakfast, pancakes again, catered by Johnson's. Here's a look at our route Saturday, kind of a clockwise loop in red. Nice start in the morning, sunny, bright. As we headed west and got up on top, up on the ridges, we were able to look west, not all that far away. Radar didn't look very good, clouds didn't look very good, pretty dark. And when I did get a chance to look at the radar, it was obvious something was going to happen. So when we got to Fayette, I decided I would see if I could find someplace, a car wash, a shelter. We managed to find a city park and a shelter, so we pulled over, sat and waited it out. Mostly done. A few sprinkles yet. We got out on the road and headed up toward Postville. Along the scenic driftless byway in Iowa, this old place was once something pretty special the way it looks. Pretty grand old home, falling apart. I've stopped here. This is, I think, the third or fourth time I've been here, taking a photo of the bike out in front. Arriving in Postville, we stopped at a Casey's for something to drink, take a break, stretch our legs. From there, a lot of miles of gravel as we worked our way up, or back out to the Mississippi River, finally ending up in Harper's Ferry. Yellow River State Forest, really pretty, lovely area, some nice roads, a lot of gravel to explore. We only barely touched the surface of what was available there to ride. Along the river, back up on top, out to Highway 76, up on top for a ways, and then back down in the valley, Effigy Mounds National Monument, and finally down into Marquette. The river's still really high. Here we're coming into the cliff-hugging, river-hugging Marquette. Around the corner, crossing the tracks, crossing Highway 18, and then past the casino on our way down to McGregor, Pink Elephant. And finally, stopping at the River Cafe in McGregor for some lunch. The river, the railroad, the road, the cliff. It's all pretty close, pretty tight. Some more gravel. Working our way down to Guttenberg. Relatively close to the river, staying close, and then once we got in town, stopped again at the park, right by the lock and dam. And what do you know? An ice cream shop. Before we could get across the tracks, we had to wait for a train. No sooner had we gotten across the tracks, got out onto the highway, and we had to wait for a sheriff-escorted group of Harleys. I counted 159. Back to Elkader, got there in time for the pork chop meal. Always wonderful, always a lot to eat. Pork producers barbecue the pork chops right out behind the pavilion. A favorite. Everybody has a good time at that meal. Then it was time for the parade. We got everybody lined up. Started out from the city park, went out through the RV park. Reception very good. And then made our way through town. Residential area, out through the industrial area. Made a nice loop, a nice way to cool off. And back to the campground. I had the drone along and managed to get in some flying. Sunday morning fog, packed up and ready to go home. Can't wait to do it again in 2020, next July, and thanks for watching.